Hi, everyone. I hope you're enjoying our week 3. I thought I would go over a couple of things for the week. We do have our next part of our real estate assignment this week. And so I thought I would go over it with you in detail because there's a lot of instructions. And so I want to make sure that you have a good idea. There is a resources tab at the bottom of the assignment. You can kind of I'll bring it over here. And so you can look at these, and these will kind of explain some of that information as well. I'm going to try to go through it as condensed as I can. It is kind of a process. So first it says number 1 type, which records the property type, is a categorical variable. And so if we go back over to our tab 2, we can see that we have categorical variables. And so we've already sorted it at this point into houses, townhomes, and then units. And so what it asks us to do first is to click on our house, unit, townhome type, then right click and copy it, and then ask you to go over to tab 6. And I've already done some of this, but I'm going to kind of simulate me doing it as well as I go through, so that way you can see it, and then you can right click and you can paste it here. Right when you right click it, you are going to notice that it's going to give you a pie chart. And so the first thing it asks you to do is to go ahead and generate that pie chart. If it doesn't do it for you, you could just click insert, and then you could insert the chart and it'll insert it for you. But I've already done that, so it's just going to update it every time. So what you're going to look at the data, it says the original data set. Of the original data set, there are 2355 properties, 1460 are homes, 282 townhomes, and 613 units. And you're going to look at that distribution, and you're going to notice that your shuffle is going to give you about the same distribution. The smallest number you're going to see are those townhomes, which is accurate, and then the units, and then the homes, accounting for, roughly probably about 2/3 of that area in the pie chart. So that is really what you should see. Something like this, it's obviously not going to be the same because all of our data is different. And now that is all we have to do for number 1. Okay, now let's go to number 2. And that is our property price. So we are going to back to tab 2. So anytime you need to scroll back and forth, there's these little arrows, and you can scroll over to tab 2. Now we're going to look at prices. Just left click at the very top under C, and then right click and copy. And then we're going to take those over, it says, to tab 7. So scroll back over to tab 7. I've already done that. So you'll just right click over A, and then you'll paste it in. When you paste it in, you're going to get some data that's going to, oh, it doesn't like what I did. I just did the wrong thing. Sorry, that's the problem with me doing this. I didn't do it. There, copy. I'll go ahead and redo it here. Sorry about this. I did the type. So paste. What I noticed with mine is that I was not given this histogram. It says that it should really pop up on its own. This stuff will populate on its own, and you're going to have all this data here. It's going to tell us our median, our mean, everything we've been learning about. The histogram for me did not pop up. And so if it doesn't for you, you can insert a chart. So you will go to insert chart, and it'll pop that new one up. So I am obviously not going to need both of these, but I'll leave them up since we're already doing it. It asks you to change your title and to change your width size. So first we're going to change our title to histogram of step 280, or you could write your name. Like I could write Jance histogram, oops. And it'll pop itself up right as you go. And you can see it just does it. It doesn't need any of your help. And then we can start to customize it as we want for our bucket size. Let me see where that is at. Okay, I'm sorry. It is right here, right in front of my face. It pops up with auto. So we're going to change that to 100,000 and click enter. And if you'll notice, we will have data that looks like that one that I had previously created. And so we are going to make him really small so he is not in your way, but they should look the same. And then you'll have information that will look the same. We are going to do this multiple times. So you're going to have this data for a while. Next, we're going to create a box plot. We are still under part 2. We are under the next bullet. It's the bullet under part A. To create a box plot, we are going to use this link right here. Just click on it and it has a bunch of information here. I already put it in here, so I'm going to reset this so that way we can do it together. First thing you want to do, it says data is from population or sample. You're going to want to change that to sample. Then we're going to take our data, just click up here, left click under A, and then right click and copy. And then go over here and paste it in, and then submit the data. And it will give us our box plot. What you should notice is that our distribution is kind of large, but mainly focused down here at the lower prices. We do have some large outliers to consider. And so I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of what that looks like. Once you finish, you are supposed to add a screenshot back into that tab. I use a snip and sketch, and so I will just click new. Everybody uses a different screenshot software. You can, if you don't have one, you can load snip and sketch and then copy that and paste it back in. I've already pasted one, but you can just Control V and paste that in. So that way you have that information. You're going to use it as we move further along. So now we're at number 2, part B. We are going to consider prices separately. So we're going to look at home prices, townhome prices, and unit prices to see, yes, we have a distribution here, but how does that maybe look different if we're just looking at houses, just looking at townhomes, and just looking at units? Because if I think of townhomes where I live, they're typically a lot cheaper than home prices, and you may or may not notice that as well. So what we're going to do, remember when we did our home prices, we're going to go over here to home prices, right click and copy. And then we're going to move that. It says we are going to tab 8, which is home price. Go up here, right click and paste. And then your data will appear for you. Notice once again, it asks later on, I feel like we're going to do that to all 3. So then you're going to go back and you're going to go to townhomes, select that data of home price, and then you'll go over to your townhome price tab, which is tab 9, paste that in. Then you'll go back to your unit tab, which is tab 5, copy and paste that data, and then it is sending us to tab 10. You'll paste that data in. So you'll have all of your home price data in tabs 8, 9, and 10, and it will create these statistics on their own for you. So it says to create a histogram and a box plot. So we are going to basically do what we did before. So remember when we did a histogram, we would just generate insert chart. Oh, I'm sorry. This is what happens if you don't highlight your data before you start. Highlight your data, insert chart. That'll give us our histogram. What we're going to want to do for each one of these guys is to make sure that our chart at the bottom, remember how we did over here, we adjusted that to where we had it in increments, the width increments of $100,000 in place of the auto. And so we're going to do that for all three of these as well. So I did units first, and so we are going to edit the chart, go to histogram, bucket size here, that one I can't ever see with my eyes, and change that to 100,000. And it will give the data at the bottom. So we'll see what those prices look like in units. You can change the title. You could write histogram. I'm sorry, right click. Chart, customize, histogram, and then you can add a different title if you want. Histogram for units, and then go over here. We're going to create that histogram. This chart. Oops, I gave it a line. Histogram. Now you can change its information as well. So we have our titles, histogram for townhomes, and then we can go to histogram and bucket size and change it to 100,000 as well. And then we do the same thing for price. Remember to select our data, insert chart, and a histogram pops up. If a histogram doesn't pop up like it did on the last one, there will be an option here to where you can click the down arrow and change it. You can make it into all sorts of different things. It's up to you, whatever you want to. In this example, they want us to do this. So we'll have a histogram, and then we'll go to customize, titles, histogram for homes. You can chart it however you want. If you wanted to write homes, histogram, add your name, whatever you want to do, just so you know what it is. And then I know I keep repeating this because we've done it 4 times, but I want to make sure if you missed it the first time, you kind of have an idea of how to do it later on. And there's all sorts of fun options as you go down it. Then go back to histogram, and then do 100,000, enter that in. So we'll see the different ranges in prices as we move over. And so that has all of our histograms. It also wants us to do a box plot for, let's see, I can't, yes, it says to box plot each property type. So we are going to do the same thing. So let's copy our data here and then click. We are doing units first, and then we are going to put the data in there as a sample and submit. And then once again, we are going to do a screenshot. This is our units. And then we'll paste that there and then move it to where it's not over our histogram, but it'll show us our box chart for units. And then we're going to do the same thing for townhomes. So copy that data, click here, click the link, paste the data, and then submit it. And so this way we're going to have, at the end of our project, we will have a histogram, a box plot, and our discrete statistics all in one place for homes, townhomes, and units. So I still need to go do the homes. Put the data in there, sample, submit data. And then this is my very last one. Copy, paste. So what you're going to notice is we are going to have all types. We'll have histogram, box plot, proper spacing at the bottom for the widths, price data, and then we'll do the same thing for homes, the same thing for townhomes, and the same thing for units. So we're going to have histogram, box plot, data, and it's all split up. And so it seems like a lot, but we're doing the same thing multiple times. It looks like then it's going to ask you to describe your trends in your data and highlight for any information that you find important. I'm not going to go over that too much because I want you to kind of come up with your own ideas. Really what we're looking for in a histogram, when you look at research data, you're going to notice that they use the box plot more than they use the histogram. The histogram can give you information, but less information in more space. Whereas a box plot, you can get a lot of information regarding your distribution, where your high, your low, your mean, all of that is easily viewed in a much smaller space. And it's also very comparable. So that way you could look at units and see how it really differentiates from townhomes and homes pretty quickly. I mean, if you notice the pricing, it's a pretty easy thing to notice between the three. And so that's most of the time you're going to see a box plot used instead of a histogram in published literature. So it's going to, on part C, it's going to ask you to comment on the strengths and weaknesses of using a frequency histogram versus a box plot. What situations would a histogram be appropriate? What situations would a box plot be appropriate? Complete the data from the 3 different property types, identifying similarities and differences. You could look over here, you could look at some means and medians and maximums, and you could compare those. It's really up to you. I want you to take this project. Yes, we have to do the data, but I want you to look at it yourselves and see if you can come up with things that you find unique about your data sets. So number 3 is where we're at. We have distance in miles from the suburb of the central business district. And so that seems like a long time ago. We are going to look at that. The distance is in here in column. If you go back to tab 2, distance is E, column E. So you can copy that data, right click and copy. And then it says go over to tab 11. So we are going to scroll to tab 11. And I have already pasted it in there. If you notice, I do not have a histogram. It did not show up. So we're going to insert a chart. And it gave me a histogram the first time. Remember, if it doesn't, click over here and you'll see histogram as an option. Right here at the top is where it is since it was suggested this time, but you may find it down at the bottom if you haven't used it in a little while. And you can change that title, histogram for distance, something like that. And if you notice as you're typing, it's just going to be updating it the whole time you're doing it. And that's pretty helpful. So that way it'll be good to go. It says to change your bucket size to 1 for this one. So remember, we click on the histogram, bucket size is here. 1 is an option. So wow, doesn't our histogram look different when we do our bucket sizes, the way that it wants us to do that. And then once you've titled it how you wish, you're also going to create a box plot. So we're going to get very good at box plots. So copy the data into the sample and then click sample, and then we're going to make that box plot. So let's do that again in case you're a little confused. Remember, copy this data, go here, click this, copy or paste in the data. Mine just goes now because I've done it a few times, but usually you might have to click sample and then submit data to get it to create your box plot. And then you are going to screenshot this, copy it, and then click a cell, paste it in, just not over the top of your histogram so that I can see it. You can move it around this little hand when it's going. You can move it around anywhere you see fit. And you will have that it says include both your histogram and your box plot, identify measures of central tendency and dispersion, describe the trend in the data, highlight any information from the histogram or box plots you seem important. For what situations might it be handy to use discrete statistics? So this is sort of the written part of it. Part B for number 3. What I really want, it says you're supposed to submit a written summary for both type and price updated in your presentation slides for grading. And so we have all of the data at this point we need for this project. And so now we are going to look, if you go back to part 1.1 from your project, do you remember this? We had to submit some slides. And there are a bunch of slides right here. You'll put in your name, and then you can give a brief description of the project, the data set that you're going to work with. We're going to look at housing, townhome, and unit prices. And we're just going to talk about, what the data looks like. You can add any more information you want. This might be interesting, especially if you think of a housing market that is on the cusp of turning, or that is on a roll, or that is struggling. So if the situation hasn't been changing recently, some of this information may not be super valuable. But if you think about a housing market that kind of ebbs and flows, house hunters want to know this information. They want to know what they should expect, to spend. Real estate agents kind of want to know how to advise their clients to either list their price or what price to pay. Investors, we're seeing a lot more institutional investors, how much they might be willing to spend. All of this data is really helpful. Government officials might be interested in this information if they're considering either purchasing some different housing units to use as for low-income housing, or if they need to perhaps create a policy to limit the number of homes purchased by investors or something like that. So that's why an investor or an official might be interested. So it says to describe the process of drawing a sample from the total data set. So what we did, if you remember correctly, we used Power Tools, and we would shuffle the data. We clicked randomize, and then we clicked shuffle. And so that will give you kind of an idea as to what we did during that process. I'm sorry, I'm going to blow this up again. So you could describe your sample, what variables are included. There was a number of houses, townhomes, and units, more houses than townhomes and units. You could describe that. That would be a good place for that information. So include your pie chart on this. It'll show the breakdown of property types from your sample. And so you're going to put that information here. That is the information, if you remember from the first of the video, we got all the way from, I think it's 6, tab 6. You'll put that pie chart from tab 6 in here and describe your data set. And you're going to do, it looks like you're going to do a histogram of all 300 and a box plot. So this is the graphs from tab 7. You're going to copy and paste those into here. And then you're going to describe that information here. You're going to do the same thing for homes only, which is going to be your slide 7. We're going to go over here to tab 8. You're going to copy and paste these in here, right here. and then you can describe the data. You can, if you're interested, put in standard deviation, median, mode, mean, compare those versus your total of 300, see how they're different, and then you're going to do the same thing. This will be the rest of your information here. I would maybe suggest putting the histogram and the box plot on the first slide, and then on the second slide explaining it. This is the townhome data, which we got from tab 9. So you'll put your histogram, box plot, and explain. You could do, if you don't like that, you could, do a histogram and explain it, and a box plot and explain it. I just think this is easier if you wanted to do your discrete statistics, put your mean, median, and mode on the second slide, put just your graphs on the first, do the mean, median, and mode, and kind of describe those, and your graphics after that. And then this is for the units, so we'll add that in there. And that is our last slide for that section. And so you'll do histogram, box plot, and then mean, median, and mode, and explain that data. And then this is where you're going to comment on histogram versus box plot. When might a histogram be appropriate? For what situations might a box plot be appropriate? I want you to kind of come up with some of this on your own. I like to help you out with the data, but I want you to come up with some of why you think it might be appropriate. You can feel free to use the textbook or Google it and get some ideas as well, but I want you to think some of this out yourself. I'm not looking for you to be perfect here, like I've always said before. I want you to come up with some ideas of your own. I'm just showing you because I know there are a lot of tabs to complete this week, so I didn't want to leave you on your own if you're struggling, but I do want you to come up with some of this as you can. And so on this slide, display all 4 histograms from the earlier slides so that the reader can compare those histograms. So on this one, you'll put histogram for units, histogram for townhomes, and then histogram for homes. And so that will go on this slide. And then you're going to compare those. Here, you're going to have all that data that's obviously listed right here. You're going to explain those as well. And see if you notice anything interesting or unusual. You're going to notice the data with the townhomes is going to be different than the units versus different than the homes, just because the homes are going to be typically a little more expensive in a lot of this. So we are not going to move to this slide yet. Well, yeah, we actually are. I'm sorry. If you could go ahead, we did this. I just feel like this is a lot for one assignment. We went ahead, we did this in tab 11. We found this distance, and it says to just put the histogram and then describe your results in 150 words. You can use mean, median, and mode, and they're obviously right here. Mean, median, mode is usually on down the page. There's the mode. And so you have that information. So describe it here, and then on slide 18, we're going to be done. So nothing here. Just do these first 17 slides. You do not have to submit this worksheet right here. Just include the information in your slides. If you want to include the worksheet, you're welcome to do so. Really, honestly, you would never have to do that. If you get to the point where you get the spreadsheet done and you're not yet finished with the slides, you want me to take a look at it, email that over to me. I know this is a big assignment. I can take a look, but you're going to need to do the first 17 slides for this part of the project. I know that sounds like a lot. I appreciate all your effort. I hope you have a great week. Let me know if you need anything else. Have a good day.